Hey everyone, welcome back to our channel. If you're new here, please subscribe. I'd really love that. If you're returning, how you doing today? In today's video, there's a few things that I would like to discuss, okay? The first thing is what's happening in Lebanon, okay? With prices soaring in crisis hit Lebanon, okay? Shireen can no longer afford feminine hygiene products. So instead, each month, this woman named Shireen, she is forced to make her own using baby nappies and even rags. Now, nappies, you know, we call here them diapers, right? Now, she said with all the price hikes and the frustration of not being able to manage, I'd rather stop having my monthly altogether. And she's 28 years old, and she said that. The price of feminine hygiene products, the vast majority of which are imported, has risen by almost 500% since the start of a financial crisis. The World Bank has dubbed likely one of the world's worst since the 1850s. Packs of sanitary towels, okay, now cost between 13,000 and 35,000 Lebanese pounds. That's between $8.60 and $23 at the official exchange rate, up from just 3,000 pounds or $2 before the economic crisis. With more than half the population living in poverty, tens of thousands of women are now on a desperate hunt for affordable alternatives. Now, this woman, like I said, her name is Shireen, okay, initially turned to cheaper feminine hygiene products that she said caused like skin irritations, okay, but even those have become too costly for her. Right now, she said, I'm using towels and pieces of cloth. At first, she said, I felt defeated. And she said, but I chose to put my daughter first, which any mother would, right? I would rather buy her milk. As for me, I can make do, she said. But that has often meant repurposing some of the diapers a charity shop has given to her for her toddler, cutting each of them in half to create two separate diapers. She said the process has been one of trial and error. In the beginning, she said, I was always having to check if I had leaked and stained my pants. I think every woman has gone through that. The Lebanese pound has lost more than 90% of its value against the dollar on the black market since autumn of 2019. And Lebanese earning salaries in the local currency have seen their buying power plummet. The government has subsidized essential goods, including medicine, fuel, and flour to ease the blow, but has come under fire for failing to include feminine hygiene products on this list. In the absence of state report, the Dalrati, initiative was, and Dalrati is DAWRATI, launched last year to address rising poverty in Lebanon, okay? And they call it the period poverty, okay? The group distributes free feminine hygiene products to women in need, including some who were once members of the vanishing middle class. And middle-class women also need them, like a bank employee whose salary in Lebanese pounds is no longer enough to get by. According to Dolradi, half of the women suffering from this poverty are using newspaper. Yeah, toilet paper or old rags instead of feminine hygiene products. While 2/3 of adolescent girls have no means of purchasing sanitary products, yet the occasion is struggling to keep up. And we aren't able to meet demand because donations have declined significantly. At a Beirut charity store initially set up to distribute free clothes to the needy, employee Izdihar, it's Izdihar, said a growing number of women were struggling to manage their monthlies. She even said sometimes they had to resort to giving baby diapers from their store to her 3 daughters aged 12 to 14. Her youngest, who started her monthly this year, was having trouble adapting. And yeah, it's a huge change. So of course, she's going to have trouble adapting and then not having the correct products. That's even going to be harder. She said she stopped leaving the house when she got it. And I don't blame her. So activists are seeking to produce viable alternatives to disposable products. In the Shatila Palestinian refugee camp in Beirut, International NGO Days for Girls and local partner Wing Woman Lebanon are training refugee women to stitch reusable sanitary pads out of colorful cloth, which is a very good idea. Each includes a protective shield and absorbent liner and can be washed and reused for up to 3 years. The project already distributes them to Lebanon's most vulnerable communities, including in Syrian refugee camps. Rima Ali, a Syrian mother of 6, was among dozens learning to make these pads. The 45-year-old who fled the war in Syria 9 years ago said she used to buy only the cheapest pads for herself and her 3 daughters, but they had become prohibitively expensive. They are. Yeah, I agree. With her family running through around 6 packets of these a month, reusable ones seemed like a very much better option. And yeah, I agree, especially if you have a house full of women. Now, back in Syria, there were some rough days when we couldn't even afford to buy bread. We used to cut up material to use instead of sanitary napkins, yes. And I never thought we would have to relive that all over again. It's sad to say. That is really sad when you're a woman and you're living in, that type of country and you can't even get these types of things. It's very, very, very sad. It really is. Now on to the next thing that I wanted to speak of happened in Canada. Okay. Now, vandals they've burned churches to the ground in Canada. This is amid the Truth and Reconciliation report. Now, a year after BLM, and Antifa riots ravaged cities across the U.S., vandals and arsonists are targeting churches in Canada now. Churches, of all things, churches, leave the churches alone, okay? But the attacks follow news of more than 1,000 children placed in unmarked Unmarked graves at Indian residential schools in Canada forced Native Americans, referred to as First Nations in Canada, to attend the boarding schools in an act that activists decry as a form of cultural genocide. On June 21st, arsonists targeted 2 Roman Catholic churches in tribal territory in British Columbia: Sacred Heart Mission Church of Penticton, I think I said that right, Penticton, and St. Gregory Mission Church on Osayous land. It's Osoyoos. On June 26, arsonists burnt 2 more Catholic churches in British Columbia to the ground. Authorities also found that St. Paul's Anglican, Anglican Church on Gitwakan, that's Gitwangak, First Nations land in British Columbia, had been set on fire on June 26, but firefighters extinguished the blaze, mostly saving the church. The Royal Canadian Mounted Police said all of the fires were suspicious, and local leaders attributed them to arson. On June 27th, arsonists lit a fire at Sika, Sika, First Nation Catholic Church, but firefighters put out the blaze before it caused severe damage. On June 30th, arsonists burnt St. Jean Baptiste Catholic Church in Morinville to the ground. On the night of July 1st, 2 fires destroyed 1 Anglican church, the aforementioned St. Paul's Anglican Church, and damaged part of another church in Tofino. It's Tofino. Vandals have not just attacked churches, they also toppled and decapitated the statue of Egerton Ryerson, one of the designers of the residential school system. Publications at Ryerson University have moved to strike the figure's name from their publications. Protesters covered the statue of John A. Macdonald, Canada's first Prime Minister and another originator of the residential school system, with black fabric. On July 1st, Canada Day, vandals tore down statues of Queen Victoria and Queen Elizabeth II. Police reported that vandals attacked 10 churches in Calgary, Alberta on July 1st. Some of the vandals wrote the number 215 on some of the churches, referring to the number of unmarked graves found at the first site. Between 1863 and 1996, Canadian authorities sent more than 150,000 First Nations children to residential schools administered by Catholic, Anglican, or other Christian churches. Until 1948, the government required most First Nations children to attend. Many of the children died from illnesses and malnourishment, and the government of Canada, which funded the schools, did not fund adequate burial procedures. The schools also apparently failed to notify parents of their children's deaths. Jesus, why? Why? Why did they not tell the parents? The government established the schools to assimilate the children according to the Truth and Reconciliation Commission of Canada, or TRC, a Canadian government-funded commission that forms part of a legal settlement to address the wrongs of the system. The TRC reported thousands of cases of abuse and mistreatment against the First Nations children, but outraged reach a fever pitch of First Nations authorities discovered the remains of 215 children buried near the site of the Kamloops Indian Residential School in BC on May 28, 2021. A team of the Sioux Valley Dakota Nation and Simon Fraser University announced that they had found 104 potential graves at Brandon Indian Residential School in Manitoba on June 4th. Cowessess First Nation announced that the tribe had found as many as 751 unmarked graves near the site of Marieval, and that's Marieval, Indian Residential School in Saskatchewan, Saskatchewan, on June 25th. The Ktunaxa First Nation reported discovering 182 unmarked grave sites near St. Eugene's Mission Residential School in BC on June 30th. What the hell? The Canadian Conference of Catholic Bishops reported that approximately 16 out of 61 Roman Catholic dioceses in Canada associated with the residential school system, as did about 36 out of over 100 Catholic religious orders in the country. As many as 70% of the roughly 130 residential schools had connections to the Catholic Church. Yet not all of the churches targeted in the recent arsons have connections to the Catholic Church or to the residential schools. On July 4th, the House of Prayer Alliance Church in Calgary, Alberta, burned to the ground in a suspected arson. The church, owned by the Calgary Vietnamese Alliance, had finally opened its doors on Sunday after a full year of lockdown. We are Vietnamese refugees here, the pastor said. If anybody do this, so they should know that we are victims too before we came here to find a new life. Another appalling arson attack on an Alberta church. The Alliance House of Prayer has congregations of Vietnamese, Filipino, Canadians. Many of the Vietnamese came here as refugees. These acts of hatred targeting the diverse Christian community must end. Yeah. What the heck? Yeah, this has to end. This is not okay. You can't burn churches down. I don't care what the reason is. I mean, I understand, the unmarked graves of these innocent children, but my Lord, you're taking your frustrations out on churches that... The horrific scandal of First Nations children abused and buried in unmarked graves is a dark stain on Canada's history. But this outrage does not justify the arsonists who burned churches to the ground. No, it's not justification at all. You are hurting people that had nothing to do with this. Many First Nations leaders have rightly condemned the church arsons, and rightfully so, of course. Burning down churches is not in solidarity with us Indigenous people. As I said, we do not destroy people's places of worship. Jen Allen Riley, an assistant Pentecostal minister at Living Waters Church, whose mother attended a residential school, said in a press conference on Monday, "We are concerned about the burning and defacing of churches, bringing more strife, depression, and anxiety to those already in pain and mourning." Cheryl O'Sullivan, who herself was forced to attend a residential school, compared the church arsons to the European settlers' burning of First Nations totem poles and ceremonial houses. Acts of violence and destruction will not ever reverse the horrific scandal of unmarked graves at residential schools any more than the Black Lives Matter and Antifa riots brought justice for George Floyd. Amen. What the heck is really... Oh my God, that was awful. That's what nightmares are made out of. Oh my God. All of those children, I mean, I feel so terrible, but to burn down churches, absolutely not. I'm literally at a loss for words here. Okay, I'm done. I'm done. This is terrible. But a subscriber sent this to me, and that's it. Okay. I love you. I'll see you in the next one. Stay safe, stay positive, keep prepping, and as always, fearless. Bye.